brother. Happy Friday night, my man.
Hi, Rodolfo. What's going on?
What's happening, brother? What's happening?
Uh, just,
We're
uh,
back.
just doing things right way. I'm writing a poem every day, and today I want to stake my claim as the world's greatest poet by giving the audience an example of what I can do.
Oh, dude. All right, let's do it, man. Let me hear what you got today. That's a
Okay,
great start of the show with a poem.
I'm actually the first one is called the podcast that changed it all, and actually it's
Oh,
a reaction to my first interview with you when we went an hour and 45 minutes, and basically it changed my life. So I want to thank you for that, and I immortalized it in the poem. It goes, the podcast that changed it all. Thank you, Rodolfo, for letting me weep the last tears of 46 years of confused insanity arising from deep fears of the end of life, which now has become the best possible as I finally find myself able to appreciate the inner beauty of myself and the end of a lifelong quest for meaning. I knew I would have a busy day this morning when I awoke, but I had no idea the switch to abundance would be so evident, while I would meet a transformational friend, man to befriend, to walk beside me through the final agonies of apocalyptic days, when I would realize I was never at any time psychotic. As the 4 decades I thought myself crazy just disappear into a distant yesterday that will never again manifest here, and I can get with the business of my new existence, because at last I comprehend nobody can take away the bliss I feel in the sweet dream where I wake up to the embrace of your perfect feminine form, always slumbering next to me through the storms of the dark night without starlight, when the silent new moon hides itself in the earthly heavens, and I perceive my time in the world with an insightful eye that has allowed me at any moment without despair to cry.
wow. Wow, bro. Wow. 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 Look at you beaming, bro. I love
well,
it. I freaking love it. So powerful. What do you
one thing
think? What do you think was yet? You go.
one thing I really liked about it was that the way I transitioned from you to I feel in the sweet dream when I wake to the embrace of your perfect feminine form. How I went from talking about you to being and with the twin flame or the soulmate of my forever. So I thought that was pretty clever.
Yeah, that was for my. Yeah, just beautiful. What do you why do you think that that chat we had about a year and a half ago, what about it was so powerful for you?
It just gave me a chance not only to review my whole life, but also to put it in perspective, and in a perspective that I've never been able to put it into yet before. And
Yeah,
I mean,
wow.
I realized that not only were you drawing me out, but I was also drawing you out, and that synergetic exchange was just so valuable and so enlightening to me. And like I said, it's a podcast that changed everything. That changed it all.
Yeah, wow. Well, if you're wondering which podcast that is, if you go Life Artist Radio, it's one of the last one of the latest episodes that I recorded last year, and it's called, I think the title is Dale Walsh, I Am Not God.
No,
Um,
I think the title is "How Being God Changed My Life" or something.
that's the one. Yes, yes, yes. How being God changed my life. Yeah, that's the right. Yeah, go and check it out. It's an absolute wow. Well, listen, it's the reason why you and I are here today. That podcast is literally the reason why you and I are here today. There's a fact, right? Because I do a lot of them, and I speak with a lot of brilliant people. Don't get me wrong, absolutely amazing people. Um, and but from the moment we connected, then we that connected stayed. You know what I mean? I reach out to most people, once a week, more or less. With some I do, with some I don't. But with the ones that really had a significant impact, um, I do reach out. But with you, it's been different. With you, the journey has been a completely different one. You know, I'll tell you the honest truth. Why? I think your story and my story are not that very different. Now, obviously, you had the story. Your story involves schizophrenia and all of that stuff. And having had the psychosis and all of that back in the days, and thinking about all of that. But when I was little, I was treated exactly that way. Okay, because I wasn't living at home, and I had made an imaginary world around me because I was always alone. And so I created this fictitious world around me that allowed me to play, that allowed me to role play and play soccer or whatever. But it was always fictitious characters. They were not there because I was by myself, and so they always thought I was crazy, right? And so the countless appointments with psychiatrists and psychologists and electroencephalograms and all of sorts of stuff that they have put me through when I was a little, um, sometimes made me also wonder, is something wrong? Where when we spoke, you know, sometimes my hallucination is that what we believe to be crazy, what we believe to be so out there, and we are so easy to judge someone else. What if that is actually normal? What
Right.
if that is actually normal, right? And so when we spoke, we had such a deep conversation with laughter and tears and everything. It was literally a transformation over an hour and a half. It was fucking unbelievable. But it got me to realize all of these things, man. Like, wow, dude, this is the world perceives something that they have no fucking clue about. And most of the time, they are so locked into their own little world, believing that is the true and the only true. Hearing your story was like, whoa, what if I'm the crazy one? Believing in all the bullshit and being in a box, and all of that. And what if you are actually the one that it really has the real answers and stuff like that. But yeah, man, I definitely feel our connection has been an amazing one, that's for sure.
It has been, and I also had you on my Straight Sane and Sober show on YouTube, which you can look up. And that was not that's where I interviewed you, and I think that went very well too. I gotta like go back and check it out. I've checked out your interview of me like 2 or 3 times, and it's like an hour and 45 minutes. So I really have to like sit down and concentrate. But that was just like such a powerful transformational experience for me, and I knew he had something special, and right from that time, and here we are again today, and I mean we haven't let up on each other.
Yeah. Yeah, it is beautiful, man. It absolutely is beautiful. Something you never know where the person is that impacts your life comes from. Um, yeah, you just gotta be open for it to arrive. Because oftentimes we are not open for something to enter your life. We believe, maybe out of belief, or maybe because we think, well, that person is not that person. Maybe a famous person. You think, well, that is where I gotta go. Where sometimes it might be really a person who is just a little bit on the side that can impact your life. I mean, many of my teachers have definitely been people who yeah, maybe people knew, but not that well, and they really left an impact. So yeah, brother, wow,
Well,
what a beginning of this show.
another thing with Dolfo is the timing has to be right because if we had done that interview on a different day, then we might have never connected the way we did. And it might have been
Yeah,
like an hour interview, and but you got to be ready not only for the divine, but you also got to see the timing when the divine shows up.
yeah, I agree. I mean, I agree. Things definitely happen. At the right time. You miss that moment. I don't believe it's gone forever, but it's definitely a different flavor. Depending how you get up in the morning. How receptive are you? How open are you to receive the messages? How open are you to dive into something new? How open are you to receive messages that come through? And it definitely, it's like reading a book. You read it today, you read it in some way, and you read it in a month later, it's a different book altogether.
Right.
If you're open, to it, and also if you have done if some changes in your life, which I believe we all do in a way or another. Life constantly is changing. So yeah, man, wow.
So
So yeah, dude.
So speaking of change, I just in my financial planning company, I doubt you know who this is, but there's a Hall of Fame football player named Marshall Falk. Uh, have you ever heard of his name? Do you know who he is? Well,
No.
he was like he's considered one of the greatest running backs in history, and he's like he's a direct associate of mine. So he
Oh,
gives
wow.
a talk every Thursday to the group, and this week it was about change and how he just started off by saying, change is disruptive. If you don't want your life to be disruptive, then you aren't going to be able to change. And that's something that really hit home to me is like, the disruption that change causes and how change itself like causes disruption and you aren't going to be able to avoid that disruption. So it's a matter of how you accept it or you don't. And I thought that was very deep. He is a deep guy.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I believe so. I mean, change will happen either way, and it's how you allow it, right?
Right,
100%. I believe that too, because it will happen. People say I don't like change. Well, exactly at that moment you're changing,
right,
right? I don't like change. Exactly at that moment you just changed something because your life could have gone that way, and instead it just stayed
right.
wherever it's and that happens mostly with people that struggle in some sort of way, or but not even
But
only struggle, just are fixed in an idea and they don't allow change to happen.
there's such a fear of like letting go of the status quo. I think everybody has that fear. Because the normal or the status quo is comfortable. And change is uncomfortable, no matter whether you like it or not. But ultimately, the disruption and the discomfort are going to lead you to a higher level.
Yeah, I mean, status quo, that's the thing, right? What is it? What society tells us is definitely not it, right?
Right.
Yet we get trapped. Most people get trapped with it. I definitely got trapped with that too back in the days, for sure, right? I mean, our parents got definitely trapped in that because they, a lot of the blueprint we had or still have in some way, form, comes from parents, right? Parents that
Right.
you got it has this way and that way. My parents were all about, people watching. Be careful, everybody's watching you. You know what I mean? And don't do this, don't do that, or do this and do that because people will watch and see. And then you get trapped into this whole thing. The moment it's that living in a box, right?
Right.
You, yeah.
Well, it's
So
also this is something you've been dealing with in your Facebook stories, but it's also believing what the external world tells you is the reality rather than believing in your own internal reality.
that's absolutely, that is such a man. That is such a key part, right? The moment you let go of what they tell you to believe and find your own truth, that is when your life going to change. That when everything going to change. The moment we start thinking with our own head rather than continue the thought of what people are telling us to think, right? Most people finish off the thought that society tells them to think, and so they never. It's like the allegory of the cave by Plato, right? They see the reflection in the wall and they believe that is the truth because it always has been. It's been told that it's the truth, and so that is the thing. It's the moment that you can turn around and you go out and find, okay, wow, what I believed is true is not true, and it's that moment that that question, what is something that I believe in to be true that is actually not true? We can ask that question ourselves all the time. What is something that I believe to be true that is actually not true? That questioning, that challenging of a belief, and oftentimes a person who knows what they are doing or what life is or whatever it is, they know it's not right, they know it doesn't feel good, they know it, we all do, yet they have a belief that, oh, it's hard to change, it's too late to change, it's too late to start again, it's too this for, I'm not good enough, not smart enough, not this enough, not that enough. It's a belief, right, that people have, and they believe that to be true. And now imagine if they could challenge that belief and say, what is that belief that is holding me where I'm at, that I believe it's true, I believe I cannot do this, yet it's not true. You know what I mean? I think that is the moments where life change, right? But if you don't want to go there,
Well, the other thing about the analogy of the cave in Plato is, when people get out of the cave, they're blinded by the sun. So a lot of people are scared of that moment of blindness because they think it's permanent, but it's just like a matter of letting your eyes get adjusted. But ultimately, a lot
right?
of people get that blindness and they go back into the cave because they don't want to see what's beyond.
Absolutely. And it's less painful, right?
Right.
Well, they believe it's less painful. It's actually a myth. It's actually not true that it's less painful because where they came from, it's very painful. That the transition is painful, right? Any transition is painful. It's just a fact, right? The seedling that is coming through the earth, that's a painful moment. There's so much resistance, and there's that little seedling is not, doesn't have the strength yet, and all that. It's just about perseverance and coming through and breaking the top of the earth and shoot through. That's a painful moment, right? But it's that transition.
Same with the butterfly coming out of the cocoon. I mean, a butterfly
Same thing.
has to fight like hell to get out of the cocoon. I mean,
Absolutely,
he
yeah.
has instinct to do it, but I haven't done this myself, but they say that if you help a butterfly come out of its cocoon, then it's going to die and it won't be able to fly because
Yeah.
it needs that to build its strength to get out of the cocoon rather than just like making it an easy transition.
Absolutely, and it's even in shamanism, right? When I hold retreats and people come and they go through those 3 days and or 5 days, three ceremonies, and often I get people that perhaps have done this type of work somewhere else, or I kind of like in this spiritual attitude and whatever. I help the world, I heal the world, which is all a delusion. Um, and then they want to come to the ceremonies and all they want to do is play Red Cross. You know what I mean?
Right.
They want to go to everybody that is in need and help them out. And one of the things that I said before even we start is, if you see someone struggling, let them struggle. Do not go there, do not help, do not go and put your hand on them, do not do nothing. If you want to do something from afar, pray for them, send them a good omen, send them, let them know that you're there. That's it. Everything else, not needed. right?
Right.
Because again, like that, right? What we want to do is we gotta build the strength to get through the challenge. If we constantly have someone there that helps us out or is telling us, "Oh, I'm here for you," and all this BS, right? It makes us believe that we cannot do it by ourselves,
Right.
and that's a lie, right? And so every time we have these ceremonies, not always, but oftentimes there's someone that wants to break that rule, and but you can already tell by the person's personality that it's a lot about them. Well, how are people going to be seen? I'm a good person, I help everybody. It's all ego, it's not about purity. They might have a good intention, but the good intention has an underlying, invisible transaction within themselves. So if I do that, I will be seen as this, and
Right.
so I'm winning. And that is not, especially with the work I do, that is absolutely unacceptable, because everybody's there for themselves. They will go through the pain, and you will come out the other side a transformed person. And it's absolutely a fact. But yeah, this it, it truly is, change and transformation and so on has to be embraced, and has to be, you know you got to you got to do it yourself. Yes, you might have support, but lastly, you got to do it yourself.
Well, my affair with Rose at this point is becoming famous, but the reason I basically broke it off with Rose was because I felt that I became too much of a crutch, not just economically, but emotionally and mentally. And I was growing and she was going back downhill, and I couldn't save her from the swamp that she was sinking into. And so I had to like just say, well, swim for yourself, because and it's been very hard for me, because I love her a lot and everything. But and as I'll show in a couple of my poems, but ultimately I can't like save her, and that's something that I had to come to terms with, because I always wanted to be the knight in shining armor for the damsel in distress. And that's something that I still am growing beyond. But ultimately, she was just like you, depending on me more and more. And I couldn't give her my strength because she needed to find the strength within herself.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, sometimes we do find people like that. I mean, I had a client the other day that was telling me that one of her friends was exactly like that, trying to hold on, living a toxic life. But then when the toxicity arrives to a point where they can't bear it, now they got to get rid of that toxicity. Usually they find a person who will accept that toxicity, and then once they offloaded some of it, they gone again, and they go and refill, so that then they can come back and chuck it off you on you again, right? And that's the moment where we got to be mindful, right? Man, what am I doing here? I'm no filter for anybody's shit, you know what
Right.
I mean?
Well, so shall we continue with the poetry?
Yeah, let's shoot another one, brother.
Okay, well, this one is called Reaching Dale 5.0. And this was like after transformational breath work. I did breath work for about a year, and I only had like one session that really like took, or like really affected me. But it just like totally like transformed my perception, because it made me realize that everything that I'd gone through from the age of 15, when I started taking foreign substances into my body, the age of 20 when I went psychotic and said I was God, and the age of 30 when I became Dewey and Dale's ego system was blown away in a nuclear explosion in my brain. I figured out that all that was like now integrated. So I figured that basically I reached Dale 5.0. You hear about like computer systems 2.0 and everything, but this is a Dale 5.0. It goes, reaching Dale 5.0. My life has always been typified by change. and true growth towards a better version of myself. But this transformation has been extraordinary because it is the integration into an unknown space where all my psychotic past I finally replace. You are the model of beauty worthy of classical art, a woman of both great beauty and endless heart. I met through serendipity possible only through Christ, to whom I dedicated my soul even before I met you and realized an ideal I'd chosen forever to ignore. The Earth right now is going through evolutionary leap, not experienced since Black Death brought awakening, which has produced the modern epoch for all of humanity, known as enlightenment leading to present nuclear age, from which we are reaching fifth dimensional stage, transforming the very essence of planetary life, which is manifesting now as great global strife. But always from deep chaos has arisen higher order, and the love of us too is symbolic of true passion that will continuously blossom with wisdom of time.
That is freaking incredible. You know what, brother? I love your poems, right? But I love watching you when you read them. It's like it's this just you know, you just shine, it's your thing, you know what I mean? It's your freaking thing. It's amazing.
Well,
It's
yeah,
amazing.
I meant, before I meant my Live Love program. The mental health mentoring is, I say, is my calling, but my real calling has been my writing my whole life. That's why
Mhm.
I wrote 6 books before I graduated from college, and I've written like 4,000 plus poems since I did graduate. So not only do I have the quality, I also got the quantity. So and it's just, it gets easier. I mean, I was thinking about this last night as I was writing my poem. It's like, how do I do this? I just like whip off these poems, and like people, are amazed at them, and they say you're deep, and some people say you're dark, and I never saw where I was dark, but I will admit that I'm deep. But ultimately, it's just like, they say, to what is it? You have to practiced 10,000 hours to be a master, and I must have practiced for like at least 20,000 hours with my poetry, and so it's just comes naturally. I just like get the first 2 lines, and then I improvise, and before I know it, I have an 18, 19, or 21 line poem.
Mm. For some it's deep, for some it's dark. I think it's both are one and the same.
Well, I when people say it's dark, I've always objected to that, because I think it's thought provoking, and it's like deep, but dark is sort to me sort of like implies that it's negative and everything. I don't think I've ever been negative.
No, I don't think your poems are negative at all. But dark, imagine, perhaps it brings up something within the person that is touching something. When it's deep, I think there's a threshold of deep, and then there is the next level, and usually many can perceive that as dark, which is usually the place you need to go to find yourself, because that's where you're in there. You're not here where everything shines bright. You're below. You got to
I'm
go
in.
and find that inner, and but for many that is a dark place that they don't want to go, yet it's the place you need to go. And yeah, it might be a little scary because you don't know what's there, but once you find what's there, it turns to a positive encounter or experience very fast.
Well, it's
You
like
know,
we were
but
talking about. It was like we were talking about last week about darkness and light and how they're balanced, and
absolutely,
so
absolutely
I
balanced.
guess when people say it's dark, it's sort of like shadowy, and that part of
Yeah,
yourself that you don't want to explore. But I've never thought of it as like dangerous, dark or negative or anything. It's just like that's
no,
where I
I
go.
don't. I don't believe. Yeah, I don't see darkness as dangerous either. I mean, I'm not talking about the space that someone is thinking about crazy shit, but I don't even know if that's a dark space. That's just you know. For me, the shadow part of ourself is where most of the truth lies. It's like I don't know. It's like your favorite pair of socks in a cupboard, and usually it's in the back, right? You gotta go and freaking find them,
Yeah,
because you don't want to use them that much because you don't want to break them, make holes in it, so you put them kind of like below, but then you gotta go and find them, you know. So yeah, I think the understanding about darkness, and that's why the shadow part and all of that scares so many people. I mean, the best horror movies is all dark. Yeah, there's
right.
barely fucking daylight. It's like, dude, is there ever daylight in this fucking movie? All right, it's always fucking either night or it's fucking overcast
Right.
or whatever it is.
Rain,
It's like ever
the
shining light
storm,
here, but right, but it's that sensation, that shadowy, that not knowing, that mystical place that you don't know, you're gonna be scared of. um but the moment you embrace it, man, you can find so much things, because you do not need that much light to bring light within the darkness.
right.
That is the beauty about it. No matter how dark it is, you just have a little bit of light. It's the darkness is gone. You already fought it. You already opens up, and you can already, and the moment your eyes get acquainted, you can see very well, very well.
A candle can light a whole room.
Right? Absolutely. And so, yeah. But I found your poem, and look, I gotta be the honest truth. My English has there is a limit to my English, even though I speak fluently and stuff like that. But even sometimes I watch a movie and I say to Grace, "What the fuck did he just say?" Well, I like, what is this about? I can't fucking understand this shit, right? Um, because there's a barrier. There is a little, yeah. So sometimes when I listen, I would need to listen to it again and again, or read it myself, and then it starts to I get the rhythm of it and so on and so forth. But um, for me, one of the things that inspires me about you reading the poems is you reading the poem. Me seeing you reading the poem. You are like Bruce Lee said, become the water, become the thing, and you become the poet, because the poem, and when you read, it's just you're just immersed in it, and when you finish reading, it's this light, that just goes off. It's like, wow, I first of all, I wrote this and I read this. It's like, wow. And
Absolutely.
it inspires me, to find something. When I do something, this is how I want to feel. You know what I mean? This is exactly how I want to feel. And I invite anyone doing whatever, if you can go to that place where you become the thing and you feel alive when you do that thing, whatever that thing is, man, you're gonna live a good life. You're gonna live a good life. So that is what I enjoy even more than the poem, because again, sometimes I fucking don't get the poem. But that's not because it's difficult or anything. It's because I am kind of limited sometimes in understanding, and
Well,
and I will need
another
a little
thing,
bit more
it's
time.
the essence of poems. It's the essence of poetry that you don't get it the first time. I mean,
Yeah, that's yeah,
poems are for studying and for like really delving into it, and
yeah,
you can only get like a superficial thing at the first. But ultimately, I mean, that's why people in literature courses, they spend like 2 classes on one poem. It's just like because
yeah,
the poet, what the poet's saying, and the interpretation of what the reader hears is can be so different. And I don't try to tell people how to interpret my poetry. I just like read them, and they can draw their own conclusions. Which is why when people say it's dark, I don't really object. It's just like, well, that's interesting. I don't think of myself as dark, but shall we continue?
Where can you buy these poems, bro?
Well, actually, these are like recent poems that I did last year, but I do have five collections at Amazon under the name D.E. Walsh. And if you go to
Okay.
Amazon, they aren't like they aren't bought very much, so you have to scroll through. But if you put like poetry collection or poetry book by D.E. Walsh, then you can scroll and find them. So, I would
Awesome.
encourage everybody to look up my poetry, because
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. 100%.
and the,
100%.
the thing about the books that I published is there is a progression. I feel that every poem that I write, I tried to make better than the one before it. And even though I might have personal favorites and everything, I have like a couple I picked out for tonight. But even though I might have personal favorites, I think that every time I write something, it's like better than the one before, and that's what I strive for. And I think
Mm,
that's really the secret to becoming a master, and especially if you're doing your 10,000 hours.
yeah, yeah. In your collection, what is the first poem? Like, when was that written? Your first poem, do you know?
Uh,
The first poem in the collection.
2014, 2012 or
Oh,
2014.
wow. Yeah,
And
wow.
the
Okay.
first collection is called Seraphim on the Cusp of Spring, and that's
Yeah, wow.
poetry from 2012 to 2014.
Okay.
But
And the poem and the books are they as a collection? Like you're gonna buy all five
no,
books,
no,
or you
they're
can buy
individual.
each one
They're
single?
individual.
Oh, beautiful.
But
Okay, yeah, cool,
they
cool,
they
cool.
do progress, through time. So, you know, uh,
Yeah.
but there's a seraphim on the.
I'll put them in the description. So I'll put them in the description. Check them out. And yeah, just take a photo. Once you buy it, once you get one, okay? Once you get one of those books, I'd like you to take a picture of it, of the book, and then put it on Instagram and tag Dale at what's your tag?
Dale.walsh.14.
There you go. That's on Instagram.
Yep.
Perfect. So Dale.walsh.14 on Instagram. Grab a picture of that book and put it on you on in the story. Tag Dale and let him know that you got one of his books. I'm pretty sure it will make absolutely his day a part of you getting inspired by a great man. So there you go.
Thank you. Move on to the next. Are we ready for the next one?
Yeah, let's shoot on, brother.
Okay.
Let's
So
see. What's this one called?
this one is called Metaphysical Paths I Amble. And it's basically just a reflection on God. But it goes, on metaphysical paths I amble. O wondrous deity, how great are your designs on the complex intricacies of this earthly existence, where all we know of sacred consciousness plays out in actions in a state of apparently endless polarity, although the wise realize that the cosmos is unity and energy is the only concrete constant in the universe. I comprehended I would create velvet velour as real, but I never knew when or where she would manifest, or how she would look when physically appearing, until the moment when I became connected with you, who is the perfect creation to complement my reality in both lovely form and deep spiritual awareness. More than a mystic deitist, but a true divine mother, whom I have chanced to adore for the moment of eternity, while lost in the ambiguity of this planetary confusion, as the world in perpetuity orbits around the solar father, held in its gravity even by you, as your perfect visage reflects the purity of essence that is the source of all vitality.
I'm like, what the fuck? I think I would need a week to read this one here. Oh, dude. Oh, this is so freaking brilliant. Um, Listen, how is this? Today we having a little bit of a poem day, night, whatever, morning for me, evening for you. Um, how does this connect to nothing changes if nothing changes?
Because every poem is a change. Every poem is a marker on my path of change. Every poem is a progression and a growth from what I was before. So that the change is not only in dealing with the form of the poem, but also the content and the mindset of creativity that allows me to write the poetry, and that's a state of
Mhm.
constant change and growth.
Translate that for someone who is listening, who is not writing poems.
Well, just the moment of creativity that you arrive at is the moment where the change becomes manifest. And we were talked about disruption earlier. The disruption of creativity is that it improves your life and helps you to see things in a different way that are going to be reflected in a greater sense of consciousness and awareness. Does that answer your
Mhm.
question?
I guess, it's definitely, if you don't put yourself out there, right? If you don't write another poem, you know, the next one after that will not happen. If you just stop,
Right,
right? Everything else stops as well, right? And sometimes we got to make a change. Nothing changes if nothing changes. Sometimes we know we got to make a change. You know that to keep going and keep growing in your poetry, you have to, the only task you have is to write the next poem,
right,
right? And for someone who needs to make a change, again, it might not be poetry for them, but whatever change that might be, if you do not take that next step, nothing will change.
right.
Everything will be just stay exactly where you are right now.
Well,
Right?
I disagree with you on that, Rodolfo, because as we said, change is the only thing that always happens. But if you don't write the next poem, then the change is going to happen against your will as opposed with your will.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Correct. Correct. Yeah. It's just not going to change the way you like it to, right?
Right. It's going to be change in a way that's going to hurt you or you're going to object to rather than change that you're going to agree to.
Yeah. Something that you might look forward to. Instead, you might get kicked in the ass again.
Right.
Oftentimes, and it's funny, when then that happens, then the why me question comes out. Why me? Why is this happening to me? Right? Well, why? I don't know.
because
Ask yourself the question.
because the universe loves you, but it's also merciless.
Oh, is it ever?
Yeah.
Is it ever, my friend? Is it freaking ever? Man, I find life and the universe or whatever uh, must have the essence of it, must have so much humor, right?
Right.
It's just so much humor, right? It's looking down and say, look, let me show you, what's going to happen next with that one, because that one day thinks he's got everything out of control. Check this out. So I think there's great amount of humor within the universe, within life, within you know the experience that we go through, because sometimes you just it's like, what the hell, what is going on here, you know what I mean? Who is playing this game? Because I don't want to be
Right.
a part of this. But it's the only way,
And
to go forward. It's the only.
the other thing is a lot of people say they believe in God and everything, but then when but then when God like does something that they feel is unfair, they might not stop believing, but they like object and say, why did you do that? it's all part of the plan, and ultimately, whatever happens, happens. But it has to happen according to the way it happens, according to how your mindset is. And if you're negative, then you're going to have a negative reality, and if you're positive, then the more positive you are, the more positive your reality is going to be. But that doesn't mean that the universe doesn't throw you curves and doesn't kick you in the ass every once in a while. But you got to be ready for that. I mean, the universe. I don't know what the universe did to me when I was at Dartmouth and I came up with my "I'm God" joke, and within a week I went from a successful Ivy League student to a mental hospital patient. And it's like, wow. you know, this flow, because I was in the process of going with the flow. I said, I'm not going to fight anything. I'm going to surrender. I'm going to see where this God thing takes me. And it's taken me 47 years into the future, and it's like, wow, I mean, I still haven't like really achieved the things I want to in my life, but I am content and I have an inner harmony and an inner peace that very few people have, I think. And that's the important thing. That's the most crucial thing. Whether I'm, materially successful, I know that's going to happen now. Now that I've gotten the mindset thing, the mindset component dealt with. I know that my wealth is going to come. I know my romantic partner is going to come, but it's just been like it's taken 47 years of work to be able to get to that point. And I don't have any regrets. I feel that everything I've done has had a purpose, and and so why fight it? Why say, why try to blame people, or say, why does this happen to me? Because the famous formula these days is nothing happens to you, everything happens for you. And I've always felt that, even when I was in my darkest moments.
Mm, yeah. If you can see it like that, man, um, you're definitely one step ahead of many, because I definitely couldn't see it that way. I could not see what was happening for me back then. It was always to me. So it's definitely a huge shift. When that shift happens, then you are on the way to something better. To a transformation, to something you know that is probably a little bit kinder to you than when we make ourselves a victim, right?
Was a higher consciousness.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, what you said before, the one thing you said before is definitely 100% true. I mean, there's not many people I know that are fulfilled like you are. Like, you really look like at peace, like a great balance. That is gold. That is being rich, my dear friend. I tell you that. The monetary value that will come, that would accentuate even more who you are as a person. So often people believe that money makes people bad, but that's not true at all. I think money accentuate what the nature of the person is, right?
Right. So
So a person of your depth, and also that this aura that you send out, this peaceful, this balanced, energy that you spread. I can't even wait when when you get that financial, uh you know counter, the payout, if you wish, for the hard work and for the impact you do and so on. Man, it's gonna just even more your energy and what you will do with it. I
well,
can't even wait to see what that is.
when I was, I guess, 12 years old, I think I was 12 years old. I was in Hawaii, and I was always like an energetic kid. I met everybody and everything. So I met these like beautiful ladies, who were like 20, early 20s from California. And one of them was a palm reader, and she looked at my palm and she said, "You're going to be so rich. You're going to be so wealthy." That
Wow.
always stuck with me. I'm like going, Where is it? Why?
Where's the lady? Call the lady back. Say, oh, hey,
but,
lady, remember me? What the fuck is the money?
but ultimately, I know that I know that 2023 is going to be like a pivotal year for me. It's everything that has been I've been working for and trying to achieve is going to be achieved this year, and it makes me very positive. But also, I think it's very people say it's optimistic, but on the other hand, I know that it's my due that and the universe has been watching me the whole time and just like saying, okay, Dale, you aren't going to get anything now, but you're depositing in the bank of heaven. And I feel that finally I'm going to get my debit card to the bank of heaven this year.
Mm. Amen to that.
Rah rah.
What would you say to people who don't believe in things? Those that say, I don't believe that there is anything, you know? What do you believe on that? Because I know there's a big part of faith in your life, right? Faith is a big part of your life, like it is for me.
Well,
Um, so to those that say, I don't believe anything and whatever, what do you say to those?
I say the reason I became God for 10 years was to prove that God exists. To give a concrete reality to God on earth. And I meant this is basically why I said I meant when I got sick or whatever you want to call it at Dartmouth, I wanted to give God a vacation because he'd been working for like 13 billion years without a break. And I really wanted to like give him a chance to like really take some time off and like really enjoy his cosmos. So I basically assumed his identity, and it got me like in the program, and 15 hospitalization or 9 hospitalizations and everything. But ultimately, I used to watch discussions about this on TV, in the 1970s when I was in the program. And people would be saying, well, does God exist? And how can you prove God and everything? And I just think to myself, Dale exists. So, and we get back to the basic equation, God squared equals Dale cubed, So basically, I don't have any problem with people who are atheists and everything because, especially people in my life who are atheists, because I'm standing in for God with them. So that's my answer
Mhm.
to that question, Rodolfo.
I love how you're giving God a break. I love that.
I gave him a 10-year vacation and then he blew me away. He sent me on a 30-year vacation.
But was it Bruce Almighty that he wanted to be God and then he got like was it Bruce
Yeah, I
Almighty?
never
I
saw
think,
that movie, but I heard about it. Yes, it was
yeah, yeah, that's a
Bruce
good one.
Almighty. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. He wants to be God and I think God gave him the job to do his job. Yeah, that's funny. People who and I don't have anything against people who don't believe in things either, but I usually say to those, um, the moment when you hit rock bottom, when you are in a place of despair, when things don't go your way, and you say it out loud, it's like fucking hell, give me a break or whatever. Who are you speaking to?
right.
That's what I usually say. Who are you speaking to at that moment?
Well,
Because you go.
well, what I was going to say is, the Earth and the universe are so precise. I mean, if this Earth was 100 miles closer to the sun or 100 miles further away from the sun than it is in its orbit, then human life would not be possible because it'd either be too hot or too cold. And that's just like a basic fact that's been proved scientifically. Is that there's a perfect geometry and a perfect precision to this whole clockwork, if you want to use Newton's term. There's such a precision to the clockwork that it has to be developed. I mean, whether you call it like a personalized God or the universe or source, but there is a greater intelligence that is totally looking after things and created things. And one thing that I saw, I talked about Peter Sage with you, and he said, basically Einstein found that defining physical reality in terms of quantum physics in a new way. But what he said was uh, basically we're a video game. And to give the analogy, Super Mario is in the video game and he's doing all these things. But what about the programmer? The programmer isn't in the game, but he can change things in the game. And basically, that's how God is. God is a programmer. And about 13 million years ago, he pushed a button, turned on a computer, and this video game began. And ultimately, the idea is to get beyond the video game that we're living and get in the place of the programmer so that we can really see what the reality is. And the reality is unity, but also oneness at a higher level. And ultimately, the universe is, I mean, the Big Bang is sort of like the computer of the universe being turned on that began everything. And he says, it's like I didn't think of this. This is Peter Sage, but he says basically God hit the control button on the computer. The Big Bang occurred, and all of reality as we know it began. And it's been a video game ever since. And God's a programmer, and we're just like the characters in the video game, but we can also reach out and understand how to become the programmers, and that's the goal of life.
I like that. I like that a lot. Become the programmers of our own life, right? On our own experience.
Right.
Yeah, I like that.
So, but the first step is to realize we're in a video game. Second step is to realize we're characters playing a video game, and the third step is to realize that not only is it a video game, but also there's a programmer behind the video game who created the world that we're living in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so what is our role? Can we change if he's the programmer though, can you change your role using this analogy of Peter Sage?
Well, the goal is to get beyond the video game in the first place. Well, I guess the goal is ultimately to win the video game and to get to heaven at the end of it. But ultimately, the bigger goal is to realize that you are in a video game and you're a character in a video game. And I mean, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Tron. That was like a Disney movie about like a cyber world and everything. And basically it had the same idea that the characters are like created in order to be able to grow beyond the video game so that they can become the programmers.
Right. So life goal is to get out of the video game.
Life goal is to become a programmer.
Okay. So you become God.
To reach a state of consciousness where you're programming the game instead of being a part of it.
There you go. Yeah, I agree with that. That's why I wanted to ask like that. Yeah, because you call it God, someone calls it whatever, right? Anyone can call it whatever it is. For me, it's spirit, consciousness,
right? Source.
Everybody pronounce that whatever it is in his. And there is a shamanic practice that I used to experience when I used to work with my teacher back in Peru with a medicine, very powerful. I would say probably the most powerful medicine that you can ingest. It's a medicine called Vilka. Vilka is a Quechua word for the word sacred. And what Vilka allows you to do, Vilka is a MEO DMT, 5-MeO DMT, NN-DMT, and bufotenine containing component medicine derived from the Ananderantera colubrina, which is a tree that grows in the Andes, and allows you.
I love you. I love the way you can like whip that off. You know that's sort of like people say I whip things off, but you know it's actually from the plant and what you just said. You know, but you said it so fluently. You know, that's why I was
Right,
asking you.
right. So that's how you do extract the medicine that then gets. So those are seeds of this tree, and then you grab the seeds and you gotta pulverize them, and then you add some magnesium to it, or coal, or charcoal, or ashes and stuff like that, and that will make the medicine effective. And then it's a snuff, so you actually, it's served through your nostrils. And what Vilka allows you to do, and again, that training is very, it's a very specific training that we are not, Maestro would always say, share a little bit, but keep the essence of the medicine with you. That's why it's called sacred. So but what it does is, and that's not for the faint-hearted, but what it does is it allows you to die. So that medicine will just, um, for a certain amount of time, allow you to go into another realm. And it's very powerful, very, very confronting. And it also shows, the transition between this world and the soul leaving your body, and all of that. So it's a very, very powerful experience that is twofold, because it depends also on the I guess the nature that you are embodied at that moment. Are you in a good place within yourself,
Right.
or are you, is there unresolved things? And that transition is very different between, if you are in a peaceful place, the transition is very, very easy, more or less. Where if you are in a place where you have unresolved business, you have things that you are just struggling with to let go, and so that transition is absolutely terrifying. One of the most terrifying things I ever done, and I've done many of those. But I also got caught in times where I said I was ready, but I wasn't. And that moment, which can be as long as 40 minutes to an hour and a half, now 45, it's an absolute, you know freaking terrifying moment. But what I saw on the other side, I'm not going to go super in the details, but that is exactly, to say it in short way, is like when we become a part of consciousness, when we leave our body and we go back to the source and we are a part of consciousness, we also know already what we are going to be. Why are we coming back? Right? Why are we coming back to Earth? Where are we coming back? What is the impact? What is our role to come back? Because consciousness keeps everything in balance, right? That's the essence
Right.
of everything, to keep the balance, right? And so when we are in that space, there is a part of us that is consciousness that makes a decision, if you wish, to say, okay, I'm going to go back and I'm going to come back there amongst these people, and this is what I will do when I'm back. Yet what happens is when we come through the womb, right, everything gets kind of like, it's the moment you're coming through, everything gets kind of like, not
Right.
like,
Whitewash.
the memory is
Whitewash.
gone, right? You don't remember. Say
Whitewash.
again?
Whitewash.
Yeah, right. And so you come out, and now you are in, you're back here, and now you have a purpose, the meaning, that why am I here? That's why often in middle age people struggle with that. Why am I here? What the fuck am I doing, right, with my life? And the purpose of life is to find the purpose you came here for. Why did you came here for? What is your way of keeping this whole structure in balance?
Right.
Right. And that's why the closer we come to death again, right? Because we are, at the moment we are born, we are closer to death than we are to rebirth. We got to get out of here before we can get back in.
Right.
But the goal is, the purpose is to find that meaning. What is the purpose I came back here? What do I need to do? What do I need to fulfill? And you know what you say there with the Peter Sage analogy, you know, we are in this video game, which is absolutely, you know, we come through the womb. Now we are in this game, and now we are trapped by all sorts of stuff, beliefs and blueprints and society and this and that and jobs and money and blah, 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 which is all a part of the game. Yet the goal is find why are you here? Get out of that. Get out of this game. Get out of this thing. Go behind the curtain. Matter of fact, one of the things that you experience, and again, I will not go super in detail about it, but you know, the transition when we leave our body, there's a twofold transition. There is a moment we leave the body and we enter in a stage which is a stage of beauty, if you wish, a stage of neutrality where everything seems like, oh yeah, this is kind of cool. And then you realize somehow, and obviously that's not a word of thought anymore, but you do realize that that is not it. That is not home. That is not the place in some way, right? Yet you can get caught in that. Again, if your egoic self, the whole detachment from your body and all of that was traumatic, you can enter a space that the Buddhists called Bardo stage, which is a space of in between.
Right.
It's like a waiting room, if you wish. And that waiting room is where everything just stands still. There's no time, there's no up, down, there's nothing. There's just nothing, you know. And some people can get stuck there, or some souls can get stuck there in the belief of, you know, they have unresolved things and they get trapped into this place where there's absolutely nothing going on. And again, if you allow yourself to transition well, you're going to go through the first phase, that pseudo beautiful place that you realize you're not on the other side of the curtain yet. And then you arrive in this Bardo stage, which you have to make sure you get through that, because if you get stuck, you know, you'll be stuck for a while until something will help you get out of there. And then you come into the openness, right? The consciousness part. So it's quite a powerful thing. So what are you saying? That's why the question, you know, so are we meant to be out of the game? And yeah, absolutely, we are meant to be out of the game.
Right.
The purpose is finding, why are we here? Why are we here? What are we here to do? What is our duty? What is the thing that we came down here to do? Right? Very powerful. And oftentimes we can get trapped by the false beliefs about what we should do rather than what we really should do.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think this is a very powerful chat, actually, talk right now, because that's, you know better than me. I mean, you're a little older than me, but, you know, 40s, more or less 40s, you know, 50s, definitely 60s. You know, you're in agony, right? You're like, what the fuck am I doing? What am I doing? I'm not happy. I'm doing all of these things. I got all of these things, but I'm not happy. What's going on, right? And you'll never be happy until the moment you really find peace and you really find that purpose, that thing that is you. And that being you can be you being a banker, you being a freaking bricklayer, you being a whatever. If that is you, if that is your purpose, if that is why you're here and that fulfills you, you find your mission, your thing, your brick that you're going to put down on this thing that keeps everything in balance. But if you're doing something that is actually not that, you'll be in a constant battle.
Right.
You're in a constant battle that it's agony, man, and perpetrates through everything. Because if there is no peace here, what's left, right?
Well,
So
that
I think that's a great thing you brought up.
well, actually, in the same video that as he brought up the video game analogy. He begins it by saying, what's your purpose in life? I guess it's a class of like some of his top students, and they're all saying, to grow and to learn and everything. And I was thinking about when he asked that, and I said, my purpose is to serve mankind in love. It's not to learn. It's not to grow. It's not to grow. It's anything. It's just like to serve and I mean, to learn how to serve better and better, and to be able to, like use my influence. And you know, I think my purpose is just to be a presence in the world, and I found a place to do it in Hackensack of all places. But I've been in Hackensack for 47 years now, and people say, "Are you going to die here?" And I really don't know. I don't think so. But on the other hand, I also have a sense of my own immortality, whether it's physical or metaphysical. And I don't think about death. It's like I always used to say, if I die, the joke's on me, because I don't like dying, So,
Yeah.
and another thing that that I heard that I identify with is, I plan on living long enough so I can live forever, because science is progressing at such a great stage, and and they're finding like so many things about aging and and youth and everything that I mean I've heard that basically every day you live, you're like guaranteeing yourself like another 1 or 2 years of life, because by the time just think about the technology in 10 years, what they're going to be able to do with the body. And so people say I'm crazy, and I admit that I might be, but ultimately I plan on living long enough where I can live forever, because the longer I live, the more chance I have to live forever physically.
Well, what we are doing here, this is living forever, right? This will stay behind way after we are gone,
Right.
right? This is a way of leaving a message back, right? Someone might listen to this whenever. Who knows? You never know,
Right.
right? And maybe that does spark some thought. And I mean, that's really what we hear, that what we want to do, right? It's, we're not saying what we say is the gospel or anything like that, but we are two men who talk and think, and some of this might be bullshit, some of this might not be. And
Right.
so, but it's definitely, one of the things that you said just earlier now is, the question, what is your purpose, and that is such a cliche answer, right? Oh, I'm here to grow, I'm here to fucking this, and it's all bullshit, such bullshit. That ain't fucking true. That ain't not true at all, man. That is so delusional and so egocentric. It's so fucking bullshit. That is, I have no fucking idea why I'm here. So let me just sound good, and I'm here to save the world and everybody in it. Fuck off. Right? I mean, honestly, this is that is the thing that is keeps a lot of people, back with finding their thing.
Right.
What is your mission? They must feel they are doing something freaking, out of control, and hopefully everybody claps when I say it. Usually nobody will clap when you say your purpose, when you say your truth, when you say why you're here, what the fuck your life is about. Most of the time, nobody will fucking clap, because it will be just a normal thing that will be reflecting on who you are, rather than who you would like to be seen as, right? That is the difference. That is already the trap from someone wanting to know or understand or find their purpose, and they're looking for these things. I know, I'm here to learn and grow. I'm here to change people's lives. And what the fuck are you, the Messiah? Right?
Right.
Relax. right? What is your thing? Don't worry about who is watching. Don't worry about who is fucking clapping. Don't worry about all of that. That is a trap. That is your part of the game still.
Right.
You're still part of the game. The moment you're out of the game, now you're the programmer. Let's use this Peter Sage's analogy, as you were saying. The moment you are behind the curtain, behind all of that, behind the beautiful stage, behind Bardo, behind of that, now you are part of consciousness. Why are you here? Trust me, nothing that you will be here for will be something that people will clap.
Right.
Because what you will be here for will be essence, will be a sacred thing that doesn't need to be clapped. When we talk about God, we don't clap about God or about the beauty of nature and the sacredness of water and food and air and all of that. We don't clap because we see the essence of it, and it's like that is beyond clapping. It's way beyond. Like, clapping will be a disservice. Clapping will be an offensive gesture of a small little minded person, right? I put out a post a few weeks ago and I said, what does make you cry? What is something that makes you cry out of nowhere? Right? Some said about, pain and whatever, family and all that. But what I meant was beyond all that, beyond family, beyond everything. What is something that when you look at it, it makes you cry? It makes you, that just tears come out.
Well,
That was the question.
this gets back to the first poem about the podcast that changed my life, because you made me cry for the first time in like 25 years to that podcast, and it was just like I didn't expect to. And when we put that
All
theme
right.
song on, sober and everything, it's just like, I really had to hold back from letting the waterworks go, because it was just like
Yeah.
such a poignant moment of like revelation and insight. And that's what makes you cry. It's not pain, it's not even joy. It's like that
Uh,
moment of insight and revelation where you're connected with the universe. And so, and I'm at one thing at Dartmouth, I said I'm going into a world. I don't know if you know Johnson baby shampoo, but the motto was "No more tears," and so basically, I've adopted that philosophy for 47 years. But your podcast made me cry, Rodolfo, and that's what I was referring to in the first few lines of the poem. It's just like, and it was liberating, but it's also like very, very insightful. And just I just had like, I realized how beautiful my life was, and that's what made me cry.
oh, wow. That is, yeah. That is exactly, that is the things that I, often want to bring through to the people who work with me and all of that. They come with all this stuff, which is all fair enough and all of that. But that's really the essence of where I want to bring people to, that place where there's nothing, there's just you, purity, and that is an incredible moment, when you can realize, I think a week ago we were watching a movie. Grace and I were watching Whitney Houston. There's a movie that is out in the movies, and so we watched that, and it's a movie. Yeah, it's just a movie of this legend. One of
Right.
the greatest voices, in my opinion, and the actress is absolutely phenomenal. But anyway, so obviously they're singing Whitney's songs, and some of them are just a fucking amazing, and the voice and everything is just, man. I'm literally crying, like tears just come out, and it's not a sentimental moment. It's not something happened. It's just this person performing and singing, from fucking her soul. And I said to Grace, you know what? I cry in front of greatness. It's just a fact. When you realize that something is so much bigger than you and so much bigger than the person, that voice, so much bigger than the person itself. And if we can reflect in that, if we can gather that energy, if we can gather that thing that allows you to connect. It's like when you were on the podcast and we played that song. That's why that's the song at the end of the show is so detrimental, because it is so fucking powerful. And there is nothing you can do by just let go, by just realizing, man, this is me. I finally come from the person who's trying to be in control of everything to the observer of the experience, right? Because we all say, who am I, and labels and whatever. In reality, we are only the observer of it all. We are so far back beyond our eyes, looking out to this experience that we are on, that is life, that is not us. And if we can get to that moment, to that space, man, you'll feel that moment. There's not a doubt in my mind. When I hold the ceremonies and retreats, and I see the person popping through, just the person getting out of her own way, and you can see those tears come out, the reconnection to the soul. There's nothing else that brings so much joy. Witnessing someone reconnecting to itself, because that's the clear slate. That's when there's no boundaries. That's when you don't need anything. You can just literally set off from there, and everything will be fine. Instead of trying and molding and forcing and controlling and all of that, that's a painful life. And that's why when people say, what's your purpose? Oh, my purpose is here. I want to save the world, and I'm here to learn and grow. I'm constantly evolving. Fucking hell, Jesus, mate. That sounds like a fucking tiring ass fucking life. That's it doesn't sound right to me. That's bullshit. That is a part of the journey, but that's not what you're here for.
Right.
What will you really leave behind? What will you behind? And the Tai Lopez back in the days, he told me one of the things that I should think about every so often was to do a funeral test. A funeral test. He said, Rodolfo, always think about it. Make a funeral test every so often. Who would come to your funeral for who you were? Not because it's a funeral, but for who you were. People who will come to your funeral because you impacted their life. And people who will, maybe months and years after, sometimes while having a glass of water or talking to someone, all of a sudden you pop back into their mind, they speech. And, who are those people? How many of those people will be at your funeral? Right? Not the people who think, oh yeah, I gotta go because, whatever, I met the guy, whatever. But really, how many people would come to your funeral because you left something behind? That always stayed with me. Say again?
144,000. the sacred of God. They'll all come to my funeral. Nobody else.
Yeah, but those are things that are very important. And so someone, you're looking for purpose and mission and all of that, I see people, online and this constantly celebrate. Oh, I got a new client. Hey, my client had such a new fucking breakthrough. Huh? I'm so freaking amazing. Look at me. The fuck out of here. Why are you doing it? Why are you really doing it?
Right.
Why are you really working with someone else? So that you can do that? So that you're going to get the applause from someone who is watching? Or say, oh, look at this person, she helped another, or he helped another person? What is it really about?
Right.
What is it really about? God, Jesus, Allah, Buddha, whoever, they were not, oh, I helped this person. Hey, you guys, did you know that in that little town over there, man, I did some fucking ass work, man. I impacted everybody's fucking life. They ain't doing that. They just walked along. Nobody fucking knew them. Yeah. Nobody knew them. And yet everybody did. And we still do. Right? The moment we are out there spreading and shouting on all corners, look at me, how amazing am I, is because you don't still believe it. You do not believe it. Oh, no, no, no. I do. I did so much work. I am super, super comfortable in my skin. Yeah, cool. All right. Fair enough.
So
You know.
shall we close? This is actually I was going to like give a, romantic poem, but this is actually one of my favorite poems I ever wrote, and I always like try to read it. So maybe we can close with this, but it goes, magic of my morning star. As is the case with every summer dawn, I wake blissfully to the surprise of devotion and welcome the light and promise of a new morn, calling me to the inspiration of the muse you are, that invokes in me these words of dedication by which I hope all lovers are heartily touched. Even as the evolution of the planet continues to unfold, pulling humanity into radical change, and the ghost of the male dominant present is snatched into the abyss of pure oblivion, while I celebrate the liberation of female race, irrevocably growing into its destined divine space, of which, beloved, you are the holy archetype, with your natural nurturing maternity, enticing me to adore the diamond of your purity, reflecting the kaleidoscope of drops of dew, sitting on the grass of the manicured lawn of the Jesus promised mansion of heaven.
Mm. Oh shit. That is cool. Again, I actually should. I actually, you know what we do? We're gonna do this differently from now on. Okay, we're gonna do this differently. You're gonna choose the poems before we start. Okay, and then you're gonna send me the poem before we start. I'm gonna print them out. Right.
Okay.
So my um my freaking Italian wannabe English speaking ass can read them, and so I get to understand them a little bit more, and so on, because I do not get them right away, and I love to know them. So send me all of them through today, the ones that you just read,
Okay.
because I really want to read them. And we're gonna do that in the future as well, so I can actually read them with you and so on. But either way, man, it's freaking amazing. It's freaking amazing to be here. It's freaking amazing to hear your art, your thing. It's amazing to see how impactful it is on you. Uh, you know what it does to you. That is, yeah, wow. Mm.
Well, I read my stuff. I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn, but a lot of time, I mean, like, first off, people will read me stuff that I wrote like 8 years ago, and I'll say that's mine, right? And they'll say yes. Every
Yeah.
I can recognize everything I ever wrote, but it's just
Wow.
like I sometimes I look at these things and I say, how did I do that? It's just like getting in a Zen state and writing, and you don't really know what you're producing, but then you look at it and you say, wow, this is really good, and on good days you say, wow, this is really brilliant, but yeah, the goal, we were talking about the goal of the purpose. And I think the purpose of my life is just like to bring light to the darkness that everybody suffers from. And I've been very fortunate to live in the light, and ultimately, that's my mission, is just to transmit that light to as many people as I can. And I'm not saying that I'm out to save the world or anything, but on the other hand, I feel that every person I come into contact with goes away better than they started.
Nice. Nice. That is nice. That is beautiful. Yeah, that is a good thing. That is a good thing, my friend. Well, you definitely did that to me today. I definitely leave a better person, or an, like, yeah, more in, um Yeah, I always go back, go away a better person.
Well,
Um,
I remember
when I hang out.
I remember when I used to go to the hospital, I sometimes I would like get really down on myself and say, why didn't anybody ever thank me, for all the things I do? And ultimately I realized that I didn't want thanks. I'm just like doing what I have to do. And,
Facts.
if people thank me, then that's a bonus. But, to expect thanks is like doing it for transactionally instead of realistically.
Amen to that, brother. And on that one, we're gonna close because that is gold and absolutely 100% right. Do not do sacred these visible transactions because you'll be living a life of disappointments and all of that. So, brother, this has been another freaking amazing start of my Saturday. Um, and yeah, it's always
Great
I
end of the
hate that
week for
word.
me too.
Uh,
Great end of the week for
yeah,
me too.
right. It's always, so, I use a better person. I said before, I leave a better person. Better person is a suck ass word. I hate that word. I don't want to better because I'm not a bad person. I'm a good person. I just an evolved person. A transformed person, whatever the right word is in English. You guys with this freaking English, I struggle with finding words sometimes. But yeah, anyway, it's always a pleasure, brother. Love you, man, and can't wait to do this again. You can wrap it up today, brother, because I am done. I wish you well. If you have spent the time with us again, I thank you and we appreciate you and we can't wait
Thanks
to
for
have you again
listening.
on the
And
next one. So you stay blessed.
and,
You go, brother.
and if anybody asks you who's the greatest poet in the world, who's the world's greatest poet, you just say D.E. Walsh and buy my books on Amazon. So I'll end it there. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you find him on Instagram, dale.walsh.14. Connect with him. And you want to connect with me, it's Rodolfo De Angeli on Instagram, Facebook, in Twitter, anywhere. So, well, you can find us in the descriptions as well. And yeah, wish you well. Stay well. God bless. Ciao. I'm out. You finish off, brother, and then I'm going to close it off.
okay, well, I just want to say thank everybody for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed the show, and hope you enjoyed the poetry, and maybe it brought some more light into your life. And if it did, then God bless and take care.
Peace.